What I'm going to dig into today is really how to maximize conversions with live chat. But what I'm going to start with is I'm going to talk about paid traffic. Paid traffic is probably a part of the strategies that many of you are running. And the challenge with paid traffic is it's really expensive. And while you might get return on ad spend to be profitable, it's something that can add up really, really quickly if you're not careful. And specifically what causes paid traffic to get really expensive, or really any traffic, is abandons. When somebody comes to your website, especially if you're paying Facebook 50 cents, $1.25, whatever your cost per click is, when you pay to get somebody to your website and then they abandon, that costs you money. That's where the money leaks out of the funnel, essentially. If everybody bought your sales are $1 a piece, you're stoked. When you look at your data, you're going to see as high as 50% or more of your checkouts abandon. And some of those are going to abandon really, really deeply in the purchase process. So for example, on the shipping page, on the payment page, well into the actual checkout process. And so if you run the numbers on that, the traffic for the cost for abandons can get really, really expensive. And I want to paint a picture of what's going to happen in Q4 because it's going to get even bigger in Q4. While I do that, I have someone on my team listening. Angel, let me know in the Slack message if everything's good, audio, video, all that stuff, and we'll keep moving. But again, traffic is expensive, right? Q4 is going to be bigger. Q4 is going to be huge, and it's always big. But COVID brought really, really big growth on the e-commerce side. Basically, what we were able to see is that a lot of those brick and mortar stores that closed, they essentially moved online, and that happened in April and May. April was a huge month for many, many e-commerce stores, and Q4 is always big for e-commerce, but it's going to be even bigger this year. And I've got some data on the screen. I won't go into all of it, but the key thing I want you to understand is big brick and mortar stores, at least in the US, and I think this is a global thing, are saying that obviously Thanksgiving is a US thing, so let me clarify that part so I'm not a crazy American. But basically, Target, Walmart, Home Depot, a lot of these guys are already saying that they are not going to do store openings at all on Thanksgiving Day. And there's talk that many of them are not going to be doing big Black Friday promotions in store. And so it's something that you need to understand that a similar experience that happened in April is going to happen in November and December as we get closer to this. And some data points that I have, and again, Angel in Slack, if you can let me know that the audio quality is good in our thread. What I want to call out is that, thank you, Angel. What I want to call out is normally every year, Black Friday and Q4 in general is about 16% higher than the previous year. But based on what we were able to see in April and looking at a whole bunch of stores data, we have access to analytics data for hundreds of e-commerce stores, all the revenue data, many years of data, and forecasting is key to our business. What we're seeing is that Q4 is potentially going to be 45% higher than last year. So the opportunity is 3 times bigger, could be significantly bigger than that. We're doing our best with the data that we have. But what I want to emphasize is that it's going to be big, which is great, but it's also going to be a little bit of a logistics nightmare. And so on the customer service side, shipping has been horrible in many parts of the world during COVID, and it's going to not get better in Q4. And so for the sake of time, I won't go into all this data, but in short, what I want you to take away from this is the opportunity is huge in Q4. It's always big, but it's bigger this year. But there's also going to be a lot of uncertainties that people will have on their mind when they're buying products online. And so those uncertainties turn into abandons in Q4. So the abandon problem is going to be worse also. For today, what I'm going to dig into is a case study to really show, how big the opportunity is with abandons and really how to save them. The store specifically that I'm going to use, it's a clothing site. They do about $1 million a month, but I want to be crystal clear. These numbers scale down to smaller stores. The reason why I'm using a pretty high sales site is so that we have a lot of big numbers to work with and so that you guys can be confident that these numbers shake out when you're talking about thousands and thousands of people per day at these different touch points. Overall, the site performs pretty well. Heavy paid traffic, solid site-wide conversion rate. You can see on the screen about 3.5%, average order value of $48. So it looks like a pretty healthy performing site. But if you look at their abandons, they're losing 10,500 people per week. This is weekly data that I'm showing on the screen here. That'll make sense in a couple minutes. 10,500 people per week start the checkout, but don't move into don't complete the checkout process. So it's a lot of people. This is based on Google Analytics data, and there's a reason why I'm using this screen in GA rather than another screen. But digging deeper into why these people abandon, what we're seeing is basically 10,500 people per week abandoning the checkout process. In the second line, what you can see is 6,500 people abandon on the payment page. This is the credit card screen, at least in Shopify. And so what you're seeing here is 60% of the people that abandon bail on the payment page. And again, this is a big store, but the numbers are going to scale down similarly for you. What you'll see if you check your numbers is 50% of checkouts will abandon, and around 50% of those will be on the payment page. You can definitely save a lot of these, and you're probably already implementing a lot of these strategies, right? So abandoned cart emails. You should absolutely be using abandoned cart emails. Those are table stakes at this point in e-commerce, and they work. But it's only one piece of the puzzle. And by the way, at the end, I'm going to show you how you can supercharge the results from these abandoned cart emails. There's a little change you can make in terms of calls to action that will drive a lot more engagement on these. So I'll show you that. The second thing that you're probably already doing is retargeting ads, right? Like retarget people that had a product in the cart but didn't check out, right? So running retargeting ads is also pretty basic. But the problem with these is they don't address the core reason why someone abandoned. People abandon because they have a question. Something's missing that they need to know before they can complete the purchase. And the best way to address those questions is to have a conversation with people. And I want to be clear, like, yes, we do live chat for companies, but you can do live chat yourself, and you should, and you might be already. If you use live chat, you can save a lot of these abandons. A lot of people think of live chat as a customer service tool. They think of it as a way to answer customer service questions after the sale. But if you use it strategically, like we're going to talk about today, and I'll show you in this quick example, you can drive a ton of sales specifically by saving cart abandons. So let's look at some data for these guys. 26,000 people per month are abandoning just on the credit card screen. So almost 1,000 people per day on the credit card screen. They convert 3.5% of everybody that comes to the website, right? Like every cold visitor on Facebook, every organic visitor, all the people that come to their site, they're converting 3.5%, which is good. What percentage of the payment page do you think that you could convert? What we see in our data is somewhere between 7 and 10%. It depends on your baseline conversion rate that you're starting with, but this store would absolutely be able to convert 7%. We have clients with the same baseline numbers that we're hitting far above that for, but you're going to see it somewhere between 7 and 10%. And remember, this is payment page. This is credit card screen. They've already given you shipping. They've already picked their product. They've already done all the things, and you just need to get the money. So hitting 7% is not unreasonable at all. For this particular store, you're talking about another $1 million a year in business, 88 grand a month. It's a little over $1 million a year. That's insane, right? So just on the payment page, if you can convert some of these people that are abandoning, you can drive another $1 million in this particular case. At HelpFlow, what we do is we run live chat teams for e-commerce stores. So this is exactly what we do. We provide 24/7 live chat teams to over 100 e-commerce stores. Our team can answer the questions. We've done this for hundreds of stores, millions of revenue in chat, millions of chats over the years. We've been in business for 6 years, and we've driven over $100 million in chat revenue using these strategies. You do not need to work with us to implement these strategies, but I'd be happy to have a chat. I'll share some stuff at the end. For now, I want to basically walk you through super tactically how to do what I'm talking about in these examples. There's really 3 places where live chat fits in for a website. Live chat should be everywhere on the website, but there's really 3 big levers that you can pull when it comes to driving sales with live chat. And those 3 levers are checkout abandons, product and category pages, and your email flows. I mentioned I'll get into the email flow, so I'll show you that at the end. Walking through strategies for each of these, let me start with the checkout recovery. I want to dig a little bit deeper than I did with that intro example. What you're trying to do here is basically predict if somebody's going to abandon and before they abandon. And I want to be clear, I'm not talking about exit intent pop-ups or anything like that. Those sort of work. But what I'm really talking about is predicting if somebody's going to abandon and engaging with them a couple steps before. And so the way to do this is basically to identify the pattern in Google Analytics and then engage with them a few steps before that. So you can look at how long people spend on pages, what product filters they look at, what products seem to lead to the most abandons, and engage a couple steps before they're going to abandon. So you can configure those types of settings based on the data that's in analytics. It'll tell you the patterns of people that are abandoning, and then you configure greetings to show up a couple steps before that. You can get a little more ninja with it, but that's the basics. And what you're trying to do is basically engage with them with a simple question. I don't have the exact question here, but something along the lines of, I wanted to let you know I'm online. Do you have any questions I can help with? You don't need to get super, super personalized or creepy with it. You just need to be there at the right time. And so essentially what you're doing is you're inviting them to chat before they abandon. I want to be clear, you do need, at least if you're on Shopify, you need Shopify Plus to be able to do this. Other platforms you can chat directly in the checkout without some sort of upgraded account, but there are ways that you can chat with people right when they leave the checkout. Because even if you're not on Shopify Plus, what happens when people abandon is they click the back button out of the checkout and then they leave. Then they close the window. They almost never abandon and close the window directly on the payment screen or the shipping screen, etc. So you can connect with people as soon as they leave. It just doesn't perform as well. But what I want to just emphasize here is you're looking at the patterns of how fast somebody moves through the checkout, what steps they take when they're in the checkout, and if it looks like they're going to abandon, you're configuring a chat greeting to show up and be there at that perfect time, engage with them, and boom, get a lot of them to ultimately purchase. So that's the process for the checkout. Before the checkout, there's plenty of opportunity to connect with people that are also going to abandon. So I want to walk you through that. This particular site is houseplans.com. They are not a client of ours, but I was on their site. We're doing some work on the house, and I thought it'd be a good example. It's top of mind for me. So they sell plans for your house, to build a house, essentially. And so picture somebody that comes to the site, they do a search or they start to filter the products and they land on the search results, right? They can then filter it by various items. This site has a pretty good navigation flow if you check it out with layered navigation on the side and all that stuff. But picture somebody that's going through these products, they're filtering products, they're clearly engaged, but they're not moving into the product page. You can track things like time on page and scroll depth as they go down the page. You can track technically engagement with the actual filters on the side and a whole bunch of other stuff, but the basics are time on site and scroll depth without moving into a product page. And what you can do in that particular case is invite them to chat and offer help and help them to find the right plan that they're looking for. What you do when you're on the chat is not that complicated. The key part here is to have that timing perfect, so as they start to slip away, you invite them to chat. If they do get to the product page, in this particular site, what they're going to be doing is, reviewing specifications, configuring the product, all those types of things. So what you can do is you can track that engagement, and then if they don't move into the checkout or they don't save the product, in this case, a lot of what people do here is add things to a wish list, then again, invite them to chat. So you track the engagement in the page, the scroll depth, the time on page, that type of stuff. You can also track in-page activity, so looking at specifications and clicks. And then if they don't add the product to the cart, or if they don't save the product, invite them to chat in that case. And you can move a lot of sales forward like this. So again, let's go back to the case study, right? I want to show you some of the data around this. This particular site, same site we were looking at earlier, they get 100,000 visitors per week, and 42,000 of those visitors view at least one product, but do not move into the checkout page. So some engagement. But if we filter that down further, there's 37,000 people that view at least two products but don't move into the checkout process. So what we're doing here is we're looking at the level of engagement that people have, and then trying to track which ones are super engaged but for some reason not moving forward to that next level of engagement. And so you can save a good portion of these. In this case, if I break it out to monthly numbers, 148,000 people per month that look at multiple products but don't move into the checkout. Remember, these guys are converting 3.5% of everyone. So converting half of that for people that are super engaged in the product is definitely reasonable. We always see it somewhere around, half to maybe 2/3 of the site-wide conversion rate for this cohort end up being able to be converted. And so assume that you convert, 1.25%, it's 1,800 purchases or 89 grand a month, another $1 million a year in this particular business's size. And so again, what you're doing here is you're just engaging with people that are clearly interested in the product. They're spending a lot of time on the site, but they're not moving into the checkout process. And so you can drive a lot of sales from this particular cohort. The third place where live chat really, really fits in that is not really, it's a little counterintuitive, is in your email flows, right? You can chat in the checkout, you can chat on the website, product pages, and you can chat throughout the website. But if you add chat into your abandoned cart emails and your other email flows, it can drive some pretty insane results. And so let me walk you through what I mean by this. You probably have your cart abandonment emails. Most cart abandonment emails, like the default game plan for people, is usually a reminder and then a discount and then a Hail Mary discount. That's basically what it is. Maybe over 3 days, 5 days, 7 days, some sort of short time period, reminder, discount, Hail Mary discount. The problem with that is people don't need a discount to buy. They might use your discount to buy and you can cannibalize your margins. But people abandon because they have questions. Something held them back from buying. If it was on the product pages, they got confused. They weren't sure if this was right for them. They weren't sure if they found the right product. Or if it was in checkout, it's usually something related to like, what am I saying? Certainty questions. Sorry, the name's escaping me. Certainty questions on if this is right for me, if this is going to arrive on time, wanting to have certainty that it's going to get here. I want this. Is it going to get here when I need it? Certainty questions. Or risk reversal questions. If I don't like this, can I send it back, right? Amazon Prime style. That has Prime has conditioned everybody to just buy stuff and see if they like it when it gets there. So they need that risk reversal. So people have questions that cause them to abandon. And so what you can do in your abandoned cart emails is basically have a call to action that essentially says, sorry, my light dropped here, essentially says, our team's online. Chat with us if you have any questions. Our team's online right now. And when they click that link, that opens up their order, just like a normal abandoned cart email, but it also has the chat box there with a real human on your team ready to answer questions. And so it basically sparks up conversations so that you can essentially answer whatever question it was that stopped them from buying in the first place, maybe do some sort of discount if you still need to, and ultimately drive that sale. And so you can also do this in your lifecycle emails, your reorder emails, all that type of stuff. But ultimately what I want you to understand here is that in cart abandonment emails, people have questions that held them back from buying. And a lot of times they're not going to reply to those emails unless you invite them to reply. That'll help a little bit, but the instant real-time nature of chat is really, really helpful for them to be able to engage more with those emails, and your conversions from those flows will go significantly higher. So those are really the three main levers that you want to look at. If you're not using live chat, absolutely get it in place, at least for Q4. And if you are use it to save abandons. It can drive insane results. In the checkout, track what people are doing in the checkout and invite them to chat. On product pages, do the same type of thing. Trigger those greetings at the perfect time based on page activity so that you can be there at the right time. And then also, like I mentioned, add those calls to action into your cart recovery emails, because that's going to cause a lot more engagement. With that said, I always want to touch on this part. You can absolutely run live chat yourself. Plenty of stores run live chat themselves. You do not need to hire a service like ours to run live chat for you. But there are a couple things you want to make sure that you get right, because with live chat, it's the type of thing that it doesn't just not drive sales and not drive results if you do it poorly. It will actually cause your sales to go down. Your conversions will go down if you get certain things wrong. And the reason for that is people that would have bought without the live chat, they would have just moved forward straight into the purchase process. Those people will get interrupted by chat with your greeting. They'll engage and they'll say, oh yeah, here's my question. They'll ask their question. And then maybe they don't get a response fast enough, right? And so it interrupts their flow and they don't end up buying. So I want to walk you through some of those mistakes so that these types of things don't happen. Number one, pre-chat forms. The default setting on a lot of live chat software is something along these lines of basically click the box to chat and then give us a bunch of information before we'll let you chat with a human. Don't use pre-chat forms. You want to make it just very, very simple to get answers. If you have a question, click the box, humans there, answer a question, right? Doing a pre-chat form is kind of like the equivalent in a brick and mortar store of making your employees have people fill out forms, right? Before they'll talk to them. Give them a piece of paper and have them fill this out before I'll say a word to you. This doesn't make sense. But online, marketers want the information. It's great to have that information, but you can get it another way. So you want to be avoiding of pre-chat forms. Second thing is another mistake that stores make is responding too slowly. you've got to make sure that your first response time is under 10 seconds, very, very quick. And then the response time throughout the conversation is pretty quick. It depends on what's happening in the conversation, but somewhere around 20 seconds, 30 seconds is a good benchmark. But the inner conversation response time varies depending on the conversation, but the first response time is critical. That is the time between your greeting popping up and them asking their question. So they engage with the greeting, they ask their question, and then a real human response. Got to be under 10 seconds. And the reason for that is when you get your greetings right, or when you have a click to chat that goes straight to a human like you should, right? No pre-chat forms. People sit there and they look at the screen and they wait for an answer. And then they get a little frustrated. And then they go, oh my God, was this a bot? And then if they don't engage, or if you don't engage within like the 12-second mark, there's a massive drop in conversions on that cohort. And so if you don't answer within 10 seconds, you're better off not doing chat at all, because that's what causes people to be interrupted and fall off that purchase flow. So you want to be very careful on that part. Last part is nights and weekends. A lot of your traffic is going to come on nights and weekends. And so if you look at your data and analytics, typically 50% or more of your traffic and sales is going to come outside of business hours. So I'm talking about nights and weekends, right? Having chat online during those times and being able to drive some of these conversions that we talked about turns into a lot of revenue. So it's really important to be there. It's a missed opportunity if you're not there. But also, if you have chat in areas like your email campaigns and your abandoned cart flows, and somebody gets that email at 9:30 at night and your team's not online, that call to action is a little weird to be there, right? They click it and then they leave a message. Again, it interrupts the workflow. There's just friction. So nights and weekends is really, really important. But in general, if you're going to run chat yourself, get these things right. Don't use forms, respond really, really quickly, and be online as often as you can. So wrapping up, I know we're almost at time. If there's any questions, you can drop them in the chat box and I'll try to rapid fire through if we've got time. But put something together for you guys. We run live chat teams for hundreds of e-commerce stores. Our team is available to answer the questions. And I'd be happy to jump on a call, a strategy call with anybody that's doing over $30,000 a month. That's kind of like the threshold where it starts to make sense to hire an outside team to run this for you. But on that strategy call, all that we do, it's not a big sales pitch. All we do is we look at the data that we talked about today for your site. So you'll give us analytics access and we'll just dig in and say, look, payment page, here's how many people are bailing. Checkout, here's how many people are bailing. Product pages, all that stuff. We'll do the whole thing with your business. So if you're interested in that, you can check it out at helpflow.com or helpflow.net. All goes to the same site. But also for everybody, what we put together is the Black Friday, Cyber Monday live chat blueprint. And I mentioned earlier that we've been in business for 6 years. Q4 is huge for us every year. It's a big focus. This year is also going to be really big because we're a human-based business. We got to get the numbers right. And one of the things that we put together for this year is patterns that we saw for prior years. And so what's the best timing to launch the ad campaigns? What's the best offers that seem to work really well throughout the funnel? What do the best performing clients have for email sequences the week of Thanksgiving, right? Like when do the emails go out and what's the content of these emails? So we put this together because we saw patterns with clients, and clients started to ask us a couple of years in, they said, what should we do? Because you see the results from a lot of clients. And so we always had something kind of like this, and we said, let's just make this a public resource. So you can get it absolutely free. The link is here on the screen, and I think it'll help you guys just be ready for what's coming in the next couple of weeks. But otherwise, if you're interested in having live chat on your site, we're happy to take a look. And again, it's not a big salesy process. Even if we don't work together, you get a ton of insights from the process of just understanding, how this has worked for so many stores.